You've been hurt, you've been betrayed, misunderstood, or perhaps even abandoned. And now someone who caused you pain is coming to you seeking sympathy. They want you to feel sorry for them. They want you to believe that their actions were justified. They want you to open your heart, to let down your guard, and give them the compassion that honestly they never showed you. But here's the truth. You do not owe them your sympathy. No, you owe it to yourself to protect your energy, to guard your heart, to preserve your peace. When people hurt you, it's not just their actions that impact you. It's their ability to leave you in a state of emotional turmoil, to rob you of your strength, your joy, your will to move forward. And yet now they stand before you asking for understanding, asking you to carry their burden. Ask yourself this: who is responsible for your emotional well-being? You are, not them. And while they may want you to sympathize with their pain, you are the one who's been through the storm. You are the one who's been wounded. You are the one who's had to rebuild. Their need for sympathy is not your responsibility. Here's where the power lies. The moment you stop giving away your sympathy to those who have hurt you is the moment you take back control. You stop being a prisoner to their actions and start being the master of your own life. You rise above their attempts to manipulate your emotions. You see through the drama. You see through the falsehoods. You understand that their need to seek sympathy is simply a reflection of their own guilt, insecurity, or fear. Do not let their hurt become your burden. It's not yours to carry. Their pain is theirs to resolve, their story to rewrite. And while you may offer compassion from a distance, understand that compassion is not the same as allowing yourself to be dragged down into their emotional chaos. You have the strength within you to move forward. You have the resilience to overcome whatever obstacles they throw in your way. And you have the power to heal on your own terms, not on theirs. Don't let anyone make you feel that your healing is tied to their need for pity or approval. So here's the lesson when someone tries to manipulate your compassion. When they seek your sympathy for the harm they've caused you, stand firm. Protect your peace. Protect your heart. You are not here to carry someone else's emotional baggage. You are here to rise, to grow, to evolve. You have a future that's brighter than the past, and it does not depend on anyone's need for you to feel sorry for them. Remember, your energy is precious. Do not let anyone who has hurt you use it to fill their own void. Focus on your healing, focus on your growth, focus on what lies ahead. The best way to move forward is to leave behind the people and the situations that try to hold you back, and to step boldly into the person you are becoming. You are stronger than their sympathy. You are stronger than their drama. You are unstoppable. You've been hurt, you've been betrayed, and it's easy to fall into the trap of letting that hurt define you. But let's get one thing straight: no one else is responsible for your emotional well-being but you. It's easy to point fingers, to blame others for how we feel, especially when they've wronged us in some way. We want to hold them accountable for our pain, our sadness, our confusion. But the truth is, your emotions are yours to manage, and you alone have the power to decide how you respond to any situation, no matter how painful. When someone hurts you, they may have caused physical pain or emotional distress, but that does not mean they have the right to control how you feel going forward. It's essential to take full ownership of your feelings. The moment you give someone else the power to decide how you feel, you lose control over your own emotional landscape. Your feelings, your peace, your happiness, these are not someone else's responsibility to uphold. You can't afford to let anyone have that kind of control over you. Imagine this: if you constantly let others determine how you feel, you're handing over the steering wheel of your life to them. They may not even be aware of the power you've given them. Whether they're trying to manipulate your sympathy or simply seeking to avoid the consequences of their actions, they want you to react. They want you to feel hurt, angry, or guilty because of their mistakes, and they want to use that to their advantage. But you don't have to play that game. When you recognize that your emotions belong to you, you become free from their influence. No one else can make you feel anything unless you allow them to. Yes, their actions may trigger emotions within you, but the key is how you choose to respond to those emotions. You can decide not to let their behavior affect your peace. You can choose to rise above their attempts to control you emotionally, and when you do that, you take back your power. It's empowering to know that no one can make you feel something unless you allow it. This realization is liberating because it places you in the driver's seat of your life, giving you the strength to choose your emotional responses rather than be reactive to the actions of others. Taking responsibility for your emotions means accepting that while you can't always control what others do, you can control how you let it impact you. And that's where your true power lies. No matter what someone does to you, you have the choice to rise above it, to move forward, and to create your own emotional landscape. You're in charge, not them. When someone hurts you, the natural response is often to feel betrayed, upset, or confused. But what happens when the person who caused you pain comes back? Not to apologize or make amends, but to ask for your sympathy. They may not even acknowledge the hurt they've caused. Instead, they try to manipulate your emotions, playing on your empathy to make you feel sorry for them, to make you believe that they're the victim now. This is where you must draw a clear line in the sand. Recognize this for what it is: emotional manipulation. It's not about their pain, it's about their need to shift the focus off their actions and onto you. They want to keep you emotionally tangled, making you feel responsible for their hurt, guilt, or misfortune. They may even act helpless, vulnerable, or remorseful, trying to get you to sympathize with their situation to ease their emotional burden. But here's the hard truth: you're not obligated to carry their emotional weight. You're not responsible for fixing their problems, especially when they're the ones who created the mess. It's so easy to fall into this trap, especially if you've been someone who's always cared for others, always been the one to offer support, always been there in times of need. But when someone seeks sympathy after hurting you, they are not seeking healing, they are seeking permission to avoid accountability. They want to keep you hooked into their narrative of being the victim, even though they are the ones who caused the harm. By doing so, they distract from the real issue, the harm they inflicted on you and the emotional toll it's taken. This is where your self-awareness must come into play. You need to recognize that offering sympathy in this situation is not helping anyone, least of all yourself. Offering your sympathy to someone who has wronged you only enables them to perpetuate the cycle of emotional harm. It allows them to escape the responsibility of their actions while leaving you emotionally drained, confused, and stuck in a situation that you don't deserve. This cycle doesn't allow either of you to heal, it only creates more emotional chaos. Instead, you need to understand that showing sympathy to someone who has hurt you doesn't necessarily mean you're being compassionate. True compassion doesn't come from enabling others to avoid their responsibility or letting them off the hook for their actions. Compassion is about recognizing someone's pain while also understanding that they must take responsibility for their own healing. It's about offering kindness from a distance, not from a place of emotional manipulation. When you stop allowing someone who has hurt you to manipulate your emotions, you empower yourself. You stop being a pawn in their emotional game. You stop being caught up in their drama and start focusing on your own healing, your own growth, and your own peace. Remember, emotional manipulation thrives on your reaction. When you stop reacting to their attempts to make you feel guilty or responsible for their emotions, you break free from their control. You no longer allow them to pull your strings. The moment you stop giving away your sympathy to those who have hurt you is the moment you take back control over your emotional life. You are not a passive bystander in the story of your own existence. Far too often we let external circumstances or the actions of others dictate how we feel, how we respond, and even how we live. When someone comes to us seeking sympathy, especially after they've caused us pain, we may feel compelled to react, to give them what they're asking for, and that's exactly where the problem begins. We start to believe that we have to care for their emotions before we care for our own, that their well-being comes before our peace. But this is a dangerous trap to fall into. When you stop giving them your sympathy, you begin to understand something crucial: your emotions, your peace, and your mental space are far more important than their need for validation or emotional support. The act of taking back control isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about realizing that your emotional energy is yours to protect. You have the ability to decide who gets access to it and when. You have the power to stop allowing others to come into your life and steal your joy, your peace, and your strength. Think about it: when you offer sympathy to someone who has wronged you, you're inadvertently saying that their needs are more important than your own healing. You're giving them the power to keep you stuck in the past, stuck in their drama, stuck in the emotional weight of what they've done. It's a dynamic where you become the caretaker of someone else's emotions at the expense of your own. You're no longer in control of your own emotional destiny. Instead, you're giving that power away over and over again. But here's the empowering truth. The moment you decide to stop playing this role, you take back the power, you become the one in charge of your emotional life. You're no longer tied to their actions, their apologies, or their need for validation. You are free. The more you protect your own peace, the more you're able to invest in yourself, in your own healing, and in your own growth. You stop wasting emotional energy on things and people that don't serve you, and you start using that energy to build the life you want. It's not selfish to protect your emotional well-being. It's necessary. You cannot be your best self, you cannot serve others, and you cannot create the future you want if you are constantly drained by the needs of those who have hurt you. When you stop giving sympathy to those who have wronged you, you open up space in your life for positivity, growth, and healing. You stop being reactive and start being proactive about your emotional health. You decide that no one else gets to control how you feel, no one else gets to pull your strings, and no one else gets to decide the direction of your life. By taking back control, you shift the balance of power in your life. You move from being a victim of their actions to being the creator of your own emotional and mental reality. This shift is profound. It changes the way you see yourself and the way you approach relationships and challenges. It shifts you from a position of weakness to one of strength. And in that strength, you can move forward with confidence, clarity, and an unwavering sense of purpose. You're no longer caught up in the manipulation or the emotional games. You've freed yourself, and that is where true empowerment lies. Your energy is one of the most valuable assets you have in this life. It's the source of your motivation, your passion, your drive, and your ability to create the life you desire. Every moment you spend invested in someone else's emotional drama, especially when they've hurt you, is a moment you're sacrificing your own well-being. Every time you give your sympathy to someone who doesn't deserve it, you are depleting your own energy reserves, leaving you less able to pursue your dreams, take care of your own needs, and show up as the best version of yourself. It's easy to overlook the importance of guarding your energy, especially when you're caught up in trying to fix others or protect them from the consequences of their actions. But here's the hard truth: your energy is limited, and once it's gone, it's hard to replenish. When you constantly offer your emotional energy to someone who has wronged you, you are essentially giving them access to your most precious resource, and they may not even appreciate it. Instead of using that energy to fuel your own growth, you allow it to be drained by someone who isn't focused on making things right. They may not be asking for forgiveness. They may not be acknowledging their mistakes. They might simply be looking for a temporary emotional bandage to cover the wounds they've caused. But this isn't true healing for either of you. It's just a distraction, and you're the one who ends up paying the price. Now think about how this affects you in the long run. When you keep giving your energy to someone who isn't committed to changing, who isn't focused on their own healing or growth, it creates an emotional imbalance. You begin to feel drained, depleted, and even resentful. Instead of feeling inspired and empowered to move forward, you're left stuck in the same cycle of emotional exhaustion. Your energy becomes a currency that's being spent on things that don't serve you. And the more you let others drain it, the less you have to focus on what really matters: your dreams, your purpose, and your personal development. This is why you must guard your energy. You have to recognize that every moment you invest in someone else's emotional turmoil is a moment you're taking away from your own growth and well-being. And if you keep giving away your energy without receiving anything in return, you'll quickly find that there's nothing left for yourself. This is why it's so important to set boundaries, to stop engaging with those who take more from you than they give, especially when they've hurt you. Guarding your energy isn't about being selfish. It's about being self-aware and intentional with how you invest your time and emotions. It's about recognizing that your emotional health is just as important as anyone else's, and that in order to be your best self, you must first protect your peace. By learning to say no to emotional manipulation, by refusing to offer sympathy to those who haven't earned it, you are making a conscious decision to take care of yourself. You're deciding that your energy will be used for your own growth, your own peace, and your own happiness. When you protect your energy, you open up space for things that truly nourish you. You become more focused, more motivated, and more aligned with your purpose. You become the person who is unapologetically committed to their own well-being, and when you are fully charged and emotionally healthy, you can show up in the world as a beacon of strength, positivity, and resilience. Your energy, when used wisely, becomes the force that propels you forward, rather than something that keeps you stuck in the past or drained by the needs of others. When you offer sympathy to someone who has hurt you, you inadvertently allow them to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. This is one of the most critical aspects to understand in this dynamic. Sympathy is not the same as forgiveness, and it certainly isn't the same as healing. Sympathy can often act as a temporary balm, soothing the emotional wound of the person who hurt you without addressing the deeper underlying issue, the hurt they've caused. By offering sympathy, especially when they haven't taken responsibility for their behavior, you may be enabling them to avoid the crucial step of accountability. Accountability is what leads to true healing, both for you and for them. When someone hurts you, they need to understand the weight of their actions. They need to confront the impact of their behavior, not just feel sorry for themselves. When they come to you seeking sympathy, they may be doing so because they're not ready to face the reality of their own actions, or they may not even recognize the hurt they've caused. They're seeking comfort without making the necessary changes, and that's where you must draw the line. Offering them sympathy without acknowledging the hurt they've inflicted on you is not only unfair to you, but it's also unfair to them. They need to face the consequences of their actions in order to grow. By stepping in and giving them sympathy, you rob them of that opportunity for growth. This is why it's so important to be aware of the role you're playing in this situation. Sympathy can be a powerful emotional response, but it doesn't address the core issue of accountability. When you continue to offer sympathy to someone who has hurt you, it keeps them stuck in a place of emotional stagnation. They can continue to tell themselves the story that they are the victim, that they didn't really do anything wrong, or that their pain is more important than yours. Meanwhile, your pain, your healing, and your growth are put on hold because you're stuck in the emotional cycle of trying to fix them or soothe their hurt feelings. In reality, true healing happens when both parties take responsibility for their actions. For you, healing comes when you allow yourself to feel the hurt, acknowledge the damage, and take the necessary steps to protect your peace. For them, healing happens when they take responsibility for what they did, recognize how it affected you, and work on changing their behavior. When you step back from offering sympathy, you give them the space to come to terms with their actions. You allow them the opportunity to recognize their mistakes and take accountability, which is essential for personal growth. When you enable them by offering sympathy without accountability, you perpetuate a cycle of avoidance. The person who hurt you never learns from their actions. They never understand the consequences of their behavior. They stay stuck in the same patterns of emotional manipulation, hoping that someone will always swoop in to comfort them and take the focus off their mistakes. This isn't compassion, it's enabling. Compassion isn't about avoiding the hard truths. It's about helping people face their reality, even if that means confronting their own role in causing harm. So the next time someone who has hurt you comes to you asking for sympathy, take a moment to consider whether you're helping them or enabling them. Are you offering them a temporary fix that allows them to avoid taking responsibility, or are you creating an opportunity for both of you to heal and grow? The true path to healing requires accountability for both you and the person who caused the pain. Without that accountability, there is no lasting growth. Without it, you remain stuck, and they do as well. Offering sympathy may feel like the right thing to do in the moment, but in reality, it's not. It doesn't lead to lasting change, and it doesn't allow for the kind of emotional maturity and personal growth that comes with taking responsibility. And while it's essential to show empathy and care for others, it's equally important to recognize when offering sympathy will only keep the cycle of hurt and avoidance going. The real act of love for yourself and for them is to stop enabling the behavior and start fostering an environment where true accountability can take place. This is the only way forward for both of you. One of the most profound consequences of offering sympathy to someone who has hurt you is that it keeps you emotionally tethered to the past. When you give away your sympathy, especially to someone who hasn't earned it, you are essentially choosing to remain stuck in the moment of pain. You may feel as though you're doing the right thing by offering emotional comfort, but in reality, you are preventing yourself from moving forward. Sympathy in this context becomes a chain that keeps you locked in the past, reliving the hurt and refusing to let go. The more you focus on the other person's pain, the more you make it about them, and the more you allow it to keep you emotionally hostage to the experience they created. What happens here is a subtle but powerful emotional dynamic. When someone hurts you, your natural instinct might be to forgive and move on. But offering sympathy when they haven't shown remorse or made amends creates a loop. It keeps the emotional focus on them, not on your own healing. You begin to feel like you're the one who has to carry the emotional weight for them, even though it's not your burden to bear. The moment you choose to continue engaging in this cycle, you are giving them your emotional energy to fix their problem, and in doing so, you prevent yourself from focusing on your own. You might find that you're constantly replaying the hurt, analyzing the situation, and questioning whether you did the right thing. But this overfocus on the past keeps you from seeing the future, keeps you from recognizing the opportunities ahead of you, and ultimately keeps you stuck in emotional turmoil. The act of staying emotionally attached to the pain they caused you by offering them sympathy over and over again takes away your ability to create a new emotional reality. When you're continuously engaging in this dynamic, you stop acknowledging the power of the present moment and the potential that lies in the future. Instead, you keep playing the tape of past hurts, allowing it to define your mood, your mindset, and your actions. It's like being stuck in a loop, unable to break free from the negative energy that person brought into your life. But here's the reality: you can't change what's already happened. You can't undo the past. The more you invest your emotional energy into what they did, the less you leave for what you can create next. Your emotional energy is a finite resource, and if you keep pouring it into the past, you're draining the very thing that could propel you toward a brighter future. When you refuse to be emotionally tethered to someone else's actions, you give yourself the power to move on, to let go, and to start focusing on what truly matters: your own growth, your own healing, and your own future. This is why the choice to stop offering sympathy to those who have hurt you is so liberating. It's not about being cold-hearted or unfeeling. It's about breaking free from the emotional trap that keeps you anchored to a painful past. When you let go of the need to continuously sympathize with someone who has wronged you, you open up space for something far more powerful: your ability to heal. You free yourself from the burden of constantly reliving the hurt, and you stop letting their actions have power over your present and your future. Letting go of sympathy for the wrongdoers in your life doesn't mean you're choosing to forget the pain they caused. It means you are choosing to release the hold that pain has on you. You're choosing to stop allowing it to dictate your emotions and your actions. You're choosing to release yourself from the chains that bind you to their mistakes. Only when you break free from this emotional attachment can you move forward and create a new emotional narrative for yourself, one that's not defined by what someone else did, but by who you choose to become. When you stop living in the past, you open up new possibilities. You free your mind to focus on what you can create today and tomorrow rather than getting trapped in the cycle of yesterday's hurts. Your energy can be used to build new relationships, new habits, and a new version of yourself, one that is no longer defined by the wounds of the past, but is empowered by the strength to move forward. This freedom is where true emotional growth begins, and it's a growth that only you have the power to initiate. When you offer sympathy to someone who has hurt you, you unintentionally rob yourself of the emotional space needed for your own healing. Healing is a deeply personal and individual process that requires you to confront your feelings, acknowledge the pain, and then give yourself permission to let it go. By focusing on providing sympathy to someone else, you neglect the emotional work that needs to be done within yourself. The longer you give your energy to comforting someone who hasn't taken responsibility for their actions, the longer you prolong your own emotional recovery. You are diverting your attention away from your own wounds and instead placing it on someone else's discomfort, keeping yourself stuck in a cycle of emotional dependency that prevents true healing. Healing involves not just feeling better, but also taking the time to understand what caused the hurt, what lessons can be learned, and how you can grow from the experience. The more you engage with someone who hurt you, especially when they haven't shown remorse or accountability, the more you delay your own progress. It becomes easy to become enmeshed in their emotional drama, in their need for comfort, and their desire to avoid facing the consequences of their behavior. Meanwhile, you remain in a constant state of emotional imbalance. Your focus shifts to their pain instead of taking ownership of your own recovery. You may even start to feel that you're responsible for their healing, when in reality it's not your job to fix anyone else but yourself. This process of self-healing requires you to look inward, reflect on the situation, and give yourself the grace to feel whatever emotions arise without judgment. It means allowing yourself to grieve, to be angry, and to feel betrayed without suppressing those feelings because someone else wants your sympathy. Your healing journey cannot begin until you acknowledge that you are the one who needs emotional nourishment and care, not the person who hurt you. You have to shift the focus from them to you, from their discomfort to your recovery. Furthermore, offering sympathy without accountability delays the confrontation that needs to happen. Sometimes when you extend sympathy to someone who has hurt you, you're actually avoiding the difficult but necessary conversations that could lead to emotional closure. You allow them to sidestep accountability and continue in their patterns of behavior without ever addressing the root cause of the issue. But here's the truth: your healing can't happen until the situation is addressed, until the boundaries are set, and until you stop accepting the role of caretaker for someone else's emotional baggage. Without these critical steps, you are only postponing your emotional release and prolonging the pain. Real healing begins the moment you take ownership of your feelings and stop allowing others to control your emotional landscape. You stop allowing the pain they caused you to dictate your responses and your actions. You recognize that you are worthy of emotional peace, and the only way to achieve that is by putting yourself first. Healing requires setting boundaries both with others and with yourself. It requires the strength to say, I cannot continue to invest in someone else's pain if it means neglecting my own healing. Once you stop offering unnecessary sympathy to those who haven't earned it, you reclaim your emotional space and you begin the process of true recovery. Ultimately, the healing process is about reclaiming your emotional power. It's about recognizing that your well-being is just as important as anyone else's. Offering sympathy to someone who has hurt you without them taking responsibility only keeps you from this power. It keeps you trapped in a state of emotional dependency where you feel responsible for others' feelings at the expense of your own. True emotional strength comes when you recognize that your healing matters just as much as anyone else's and that you deserve to prioritize your own well-being above all else. When you offer sympathy to someone who has hurt you, you are allowing them to maintain a hold on your emotional state, often without even realizing it. Sympathy, in this context, can become a form of emotional manipulation. The person who has hurt you may not even ask for it directly, but by continuing to offer your sympathy, you make their pain more important than your own. What happens is that you start to internalize their problems as if they are yours to solve, and this gives them control over your emotional world. You allow them to keep you in a position where their needs, their emotions, and their issues dictate how you feel and how you respond. This emotional manipulation doesn't always look overt. It might begin subtly with you feeling compelled to ease their discomfort, to make them feel better, and to smooth things over in an attempt to avoid conflict. But the truth is, when you do this, you relinquish your own power and make their emotions and actions the focal point of your life. You can easily fall into a pattern of putting their feelings ahead of your own healing. You may find yourself feeling sorry for them, even when they haven't taken responsibility for what they've done to hurt you. In doing so, you give away your energy, your emotional resilience, and your sense of control, all of which are needed for your own personal growth and recovery. This dynamic can be incredibly toxic because it keeps you tethered to the very person who caused you harm. It turns you into a caretaker of their feelings, forcing you to constantly tend to their emotional wounds while your own are left untreated. This imbalance creates a dependency, not just in the person who hurt you, but also in you. You start believing that your emotional well-being is secondary to theirs, and you may even begin to feel like it's your job to constantly check on them, offer them comfort, and make sure they are okay. But in doing so, you forget that your feelings matter too, that your healing is just as important as their comfort. Furthermore, this type of emotional manipulation makes it harder for you to establish clear boundaries. You may find yourself excusing their behavior, minimizing the impact of their actions, or rationalizing why they deserve sympathy, all the while denying your own right to emotional space and recovery. You start to tolerate their mistreatment in the name of compassion, and over time, this can erode your self-respect and your sense of self-worth. You might begin to believe that you should always be the one to offer grace and understanding, even if the person who hurt you hasn't done anything to deserve it. But this cycle is dangerous because it teaches you to disregard your own feelings for the sake of someone else's, and it keeps you from learning the vital lesson of self-preservation. In these situations, you must recognize that offering sympathy can often act as a barrier to setting the boundaries necessary for your emotional freedom. The more you give in to the urge to comfort someone who hasn't acknowledged their wrongdoing, the more you allow them to cross your emotional boundaries. This can leave you feeling drained, emotionally exhausted, and even resentful. By constantly offering sympathy, you may unconsciously reinforce their behavior, making it seem like you are okay with the way they treated you. This enables them to continue their hurtful actions without any real consequence or introspection. It's crucial to understand that you are not responsible for managing other people's emotions, especially when they have hurt you. When you constantly offer sympathy to someone who has wronged you, you avoid holding them accountable for their actions. Accountability is essential for both your healing and their growth. If you fail to hold them responsible, you might never see any change in their behavior, and you may continue to suffer the same emotional pain. Offering sympathy in this way only perpetuates the cycle of hurt and undermines the possibility of true emotional resolution. When you choose to stop offering sympathy to someone who has hurt you, you stop enabling them to control your emotional state. You reclaim your power, your energy, and your ability to make decisions that align with your own emotional needs. You create the space for self-healing, self-respect, and emotional growth. You stop allowing them to dictate how you feel and how you spend your emotional energy, and you start taking responsibility for your own well-being. The more you focus on your own healing, the more you empower yourself to move forward and break free from the patterns of emotional manipulation that have kept you stuck. Your emotional space is sacred. Protect it fiercely and ensure that it's filled with the energy that supports your growth, your peace, and your future, not someone else's unresolved issues. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as an act of letting someone off the hook, of absolving them from the pain they caused you. But forgiveness is not about them, it is about freeing yourself. When you hold on to anger, resentment, or bitterness towards someone who has hurt you, you are carrying a burden that weighs heavily on your soul. It ties you to the event, to the person, and to the person, and to the pain. This emotional tether keeps you reliving the hurt over and over again like a wound that never fully heals because you keep reopening it. Forgiveness is the act of cutting that tether. It's about releasing yourself from the control that their actions and the resulting pain have over you. But by forgiving, you are not excusing their behavior or saying it was acceptable. You are not forgetting what happened or dismissing the lessons you've learned. Instead, you are choosing to no longer let their actions define your emotional state. Forgiveness is about reclaiming your peace, your power, and your ability to move forward unencumbered by the chains of resentment. It's about deciding that your emotional well-being is more important than holding on to anger that only hurts you. The person who hurt you might not even realize the depth of the pain they've caused, and they might never take responsibility for it, but waiting for their accountability before you choose to forgive gives them power over your healing. When you forgive, you are telling yourself that your life and your happiness are worth more than the pain they caused. You are refusing to allow their actions to dictate how you feel, how you think, and how you live your life. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to reconcile with them or even engage with them ever again. It simply means that you are no longer carrying the burden of their actions. It's an act of self-care, a way of prioritizing your mental and emotional health over the desire for revenge or justice. Holding on to anger may feel justified in the short term, but in the long term, it only corrodes your spirit. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is liberating. It allows you to focus on your future rather than being stuck in the past. Forgiveness is also a powerful way of breaking the cycle of hurt. When you hold on to the pain, it often seeps into other areas of your life. It can affect your relationships, your self-esteem, and your overall outlook. You may find yourself projecting unresolved anger onto people who had nothing to do with your hurt. This is how pain perpetuates itself. It grows and spreads, impacting your ability to trust, to connect, and to thrive. Forgiveness stops that cycle. It allows you to release the negativity and reclaim the positive aspects of your life. It's a way of saying, I will not let this pain control me any longer. Sometimes forgiveness is not a single act, but a process. You may need to remind yourself repeatedly that you are choosing to let go, especially when old feelings of hurt resurface. That's okay. Forgiveness doesn't mean you'll never feel the pain again. It means that when you do, you'll have the tools to release it rather than letting it consume you. Over time, as you practice forgiveness, you'll find that the pain diminishes and the hold it once had over you fades away. You'll start to feel lighter, freer, and more in control of your own emotions and your life. Forgiving someone who hurts you is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. It's an act of strength, not weakness. It takes courage to let go of the anger and resentment, to release the desire for revenge, and to choose peace instead. But the reward is worth it, a life unburdened by the weight of the past, a heart open to joy and possibility, and a spirit free to soar. Forgiveness is not for the person who hurt you, it's for you. It's your declaration that you will not be defined by the pain they caused, but by the strength you found to overcome it. Healing from the hurt caused by someone else is not just a passive process where time simply washes away the pain. Healing is an active, deliberate choice. It requires you to take control of your life, to rebuild yourself piece by piece, and to fill the void left by the pain with something far more empowering. Healing starts with acknowledging the hurt, not burying it. You can't heal what you don't confront. It's okay to admit that you've been hurt, that someone's actions have caused you pain. This is not weakness, it's strength. Acknowledging your pain is the first step toward understanding it and taking the steps needed to move past it. Healing also involves releasing the emotional baggage you've been carrying. This doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with small, conscious steps. Let go of the need for closure if it's not forthcoming. Let go of the belief that the person who hurt you owes you something, whether it's an apology, an explanation, or accountability. These things may never come, but your healing cannot hinge on their actions. It has to be about you and your choice to move forward. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it never happened. It means you refuse to let the pain dictate your future. You take back your power by deciding that your happiness is not dependent on someone else's actions or inactions. Healing is also about finding meaning in the pain. This doesn't mean that the hurt was justified or necessary, but it does mean that you can grow from it. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I use this pain to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient? Often our greatest growth comes from our deepest wounds. The lessons you take from this experience can shape you in powerful ways. Maybe it teaches you to set healthier boundaries, to trust your instincts, or to value yourself more. Whatever the lesson, embrace it, because it's part of your journey to becoming a stronger version of yourself. Self-care is a crucial part of the healing process. This is the time to pour love and attention into yourself. Invest in activities that bring you joy, calm, and a sense of purpose. Whether it's taking long walks in nature, practicing meditation, journaling your thoughts, or exploring a new hobby, these small acts of self-care remind you that you are worth the effort. They also help to shift your focus away from the pain and toward the beauty and potential in your life. Healing is about rediscovering the things that make you feel alive and whole, independent of the person who hurt you. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. It's okay to lean on others, to share your pain with those you trust. Surround yourself with people who genuinely care about you and want to see you thrive. These could be close friends, family members, or even a therapist or support group. The right people will remind you of your worth and help you see beyond the pain. They will stand by you as you take each step toward healing, offering encouragement and perspective when you need it most. Healing also requires patience. Not a straight line. There will be good days and bad days. Some moments will feel like progress, while others might feel like setbacks. This is normal. Healing is a process, not a destination. Be gentle with yourself and celebrate the small victories along the way. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a sign that you are moving closer to the peace and wholeness you deserve. Finally, healing is about reclaiming your power. The person who hurt you may have taken something from you, a sense of trust, confidence, or safety. But you can reclaim it. You can rebuild yourself stronger than before with a deeper understanding of who you are and what you deserve. Healing is an act of defiance. It's saying, you may have hurt me, but you will not define me. I will not let this pain be the story of my life. You have the strength within you to rise above the hurt and create a new chapter filled with resilience, joy, and purpose. Healing is your way of taking back your life on your terms and building a future that is no longer shaped by the past.